Hey everybody, welcome to a new chapter of Old Man Brad. Whether you are new to the show or returning for another chapter, thank you so much for giving me a listen. And if you love the show, drop me a review over in your favorite podcast app or become a patron over at patreon.com/oldmanbrad. So we're coming to the end of the Holiday of Horrors, unfortunately. We have, I had scheduled originally 2 episodes left. I don't know if I'm going to be able to squeeze the last one in due to scheduling and holidays and families and all that, but I at least have one more. I have my good friend Drew here with me, and we're going to talk 2015's A Christmas Horror Story. How you doing, Drew?
Well, good morning, Bailey Downs.
It is, it's earlier for you, for sure.
It is early for me. That's why I have
over on the West Coast. You're in the past, I'm in the future.
I know. Quit time traveling. But you're not as an established time traveler like Paul.
No, they're much further ahead than us.
They're in another day.
They are. They're already in Christmas Eve probably for them, right? Or almost?
Almost? I don't know.
A Christmas Horror Story, Drew. You've seen this obviously multiple times before.
Yes. I was actually just looking at my Letterboxd, how many times I've actually logged it. And I have watched it 6 times. So ever since I started logging movies since 2019. So I've watched it once a year.
Okay.
I adore this horror film. And much like you, we both love anthology movies because you get more bang for your buck. You get the variety of it. And when it comes to horror anthologies, like Trick or Treat, I think is almost one of the, I think it's up there top tier, kind of like with Creepshow. Yes. I think that Trick or Treat kind of rivals a lot of great things in quality, in cohesive storylines, and just fun stories, lovable characters. And I feel that A Christmas Horror Story is the winter version of Trick or Treat.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, for sure.
Because when you actually take a look at the stories, they do connect well. And it is cohesive.
And it's not a typical anthology where you're it's a mix of short films kind of just thrown into a package.
Right.
This is actually all the stories weave together throughout the entire movie. So you get little pieces of each of them as you go.
Exactly.
We'll dive deeper into this in a minute. Before we do, I want to say if you're in the Cincinnati area, come out to Frightful Fridays on the 3rd Friday of the month. We just did our December screening of Don't Open Till Christmas. Wild, sometimes incoherent craziness makes you scratch your head and go, what was this? Huh? You could tell there were multiple directors for sure. But come out January 17th at 10 p.m. We haven't locked in exactly what film we're doing yet, but watch for it here, over on social media, Esquire Theater, all the things. But January 17th, 10 p.m., and let's watch a movie together. All right, Drew, we're going to dig deeper into A Christmas Horror Story.
Merry Christmas! Christmas, the most magical time of year.
Tell me we will find the perfect Christmas tree.
It's Christmas. Christmas is all about forgiveness and family and tradition.
Santa, lots of kids are depending on tonight going off without a hit.
But in Bailey Downs this Christmas, it's different.
Exactly 1 year ago, last Christmas Eve, the school was the scene of an unimaginable crime.
And you still want to go down there just for some stupid school assignment?
It gets through any door in the school.
This is Krampus, right?
What's a Krampus?
He's like an anti-Santa Claus. A demon who punishes the naughty. He whips them, chains them up, stuff like that.
That's fun.
You better watch out. Christmas is supposed to be a time of joy, peace, and goodwill. But for some folks in a small town of Bailey Downs, it turns into something much less festive. This came out in 2015, directed by Stephen Hobben, Grant Harvey, Brett Sullivan, and it stars William Shatner, George Buza, Rob Archer, and so many others. Just like you, Drew, this movie, the first time I saw it, I was like, this isn't bad. It took me actually another watch to really kind of enjoy it a little bit more. I think because I saw it. It's one of those, like, I watched it around wanting it to be a Christmas trick or treat, almost exactly like that kind of thing, and it didn't hit the high bar I had already set in my mind.
Sure.
But in this rewatch, I was like, oh yeah, I kind of forgot how this was, how it's not like a true anthology. Well, it's an anthology. I don't want to say not a true anthology. It's not your cookie cutter type of anthology, like I said, where it's short stories, maybe have something we've done.
Not where it's, what is it, like Tales from the Crypt, where the guy's like, your story.
Yes.
And your story.
Or like the movies that we've been doing, 1031. You have your little, like, late night hostess, and then you kind of get stories.
Oh, yeah.
This, you do have some. You have William Shatner that kind of breaks it up here and there.
He does have a nice ability to, like, transition to and fro in between the stories, but it's nothing that actually connects to the stories as a whole. He's just more, you know what it is? It's a nice palate cleanser between each of the stories. And of course, what is a better palate cleanser than a lovable Canadian? William Shatner. Captain James T. Kirk, if you will.
Who's hitting on his I guess his producer while they're...
I'm going to get her under the mistletoe. Do you know who saw that? Jesus saw that.
I don't even know where we want to start with this. We have... It starts off with this kind of you're coming to an end of what looks like a fight. You see Santa in his all like scar across his face, like some real shit's going down. You're like, oh crap, what is going on? And Santa, played by George Buza, who a lot of people would know as the voice of Beast from the X-Men animated series. And he was just out here in Cincinnati for our expo, and
I'm so jealous.
Went and talked to him about it, and he was like, I had so much fun making this movie.
Yeah.
Which makes me happy to hear, because, you know, it is an enjoyable film. So hearing that Santa had fun making the film, it's like, oh, okay, good. If he would have went grumble, 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 oh my gosh.
Oh my God, it was so horrible.
They made me actually fight Krampus. It was awful. So you start off right away of like, oh, what's going on? I need to know. And then we kind of jump into William Shatner to kind of set things up and start us off.
So it starts off present, and then it goes to the past. And we know that everything is kind of leading around to, again, like everyone's listening to the radio, which I do love. I love the fact that, like, you can kind of hear Shatner in the background for certain things, setting up the songs. And then, you know, first off, we lead to the kids going into, well, actually, you have the flashback of the cops.
Yes.
In the school, in the school, the nunnery at first.
And then to the kids, it's like a true crime. Like, they're going to this location.
They're doing like a documentary for school. They're investigating this murder that took place, which was it a year ago or a couple?
It was something like that. But the video of this cop kind of comes into play a little bit later. But I do like how all these stories are linked together, but not. The only two I think are more direct are these kids investigating because they're waiting for the key, and the girl who brings the key to this place. It's her and her family and their story off later.
Right. And yeah, you get that a little bit later. Out of all the stories, I think this one, to me, and I think we've kind of like, we've established this before with other things like our, 1031 anthologies. You almost start off with, I think, the weakest story. And to me, this one is the weakest, because even though you have like great elements of like the haunting aspect, possession, like I loved when they were freaking out and they were kind of going through the halls when things were getting a little bit hairy, and suddenly you see like a young girl in the chair in the stirrups, and then and like the nuns are trying to help her, and then suddenly like an older nun like goes to the door and slams it shut. And even though this is all the essence of the past, like coming back alive, like those elements I think were really, really neat and actually could have, I think, added to more of a story. But I didn't like the fact that like the girl who was pregnant and had her stillborn baby had to possess the girl boink the guy to get pregnant to carry on like
Yeah, that was a little odd.
haunted spirit baby.
Yeah. that was a little odd.
Like, I mean, is she like a vengeful ghost for anybody who comes down there, or is it like just the nuns that like inadvertently like tried to help, but like things didn't work out because the kid that she boinked, like the ghost throws him up on the wall. Same thing as the guy that we saw in the flashback, and he's crucified, and she breaks his neck. Like, what is this?
She's an angry elf.
I bet you're an angry little. But yeah, I don't know. It seems to be the least cohesive story to add anything to anything else, and it's very loosely connecting.
Yes,
everything else.
It's the one that didn't feel as Christmas connected as the other two.
Well, almost like blasphemy Christmassy.
Yeah,
you have the unwed mother, the young lady giving birth on Christmas, the whole like "to us a child is born" written in blood on the wall. I mean, like, I get it, but again, it's so loosely based where it's the cop, the dad from the Christmas tree story was the cop who was there, so he had to take leave because it was so traumatic. And then the girl who passed the key, which also, like, what is up with the parents? So you're all just randomly meeting at the school. Parents aren't going to question like why your parents are in the car and they're seeing you're getting your ass grabbed by your boyfriend. What dad is like, Amanda?
That whole thing was weird of like they're waiting and she comes up and the parents like, what are you saying to your parents? They're like, hey, I know we're going to Auntie's house, but can we stop off over here? I need to drop off a key.
Can we all meet up at the school
and then we'll go.
Wait, why does the dad have the key?
I don't remember.
Did he used to work there?
Maybe he has. There was some connection, and because she makes a comment of how important the key is, like don't lose it and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's like the master key to the basement and stuff. But it's like,
but again,
why?
Dad's like, cool, yeah, let's go there. It's all right.
Let's go meet at the school and see you like pass something off to them like it's a drug deal,
and then make out, and they're like, we gotta go, honk the horn, like.
Sorry, I gotta leave. My family's waiting.
And then you cut to the car, and it's like they're in a rush to get there. That was the one transition that you're like didn't make sense.
I did like that after they left and after they went into the school, it does go back to the car and the family driving off to the great aunt's house. And I do love that they pass the family of the ex-cop
going to get their Christmas tree.
That's the kind of stuff where it is like trick or treat and you can just see things happening in the background and see that to me just makes
the dad with the Christmas tree. I actually wanted more from that story. I kind of felt like it rushed to end.
Oh, sure. Oh man. What I loved is like, I mean, just to jump to the end of that story, the guy who's all like, is your boy home? Can he hear you? He's like, has he been acting weird? That's not your son. And then, like, she brings him back, and he's, like, kicking the thing in the bag. And he's like, what's wrong with you? They're not going to hurt you. They're not going to do anything while I'm here. And you got to think, like, how long has this been going on? Is this, like, a family, like, secret that they have to tend to the changelings in the wood? Like, do they have to keep them in check?
I would think so.
And, I mean, that to me is, like, a neat story. Like, could the changelings be something else connected? Could they be, like an evil form of like Santa's elves that didn't make it to the North Pole or something or whatever. But like, I do like the fact that
I almost felt that the changelings connected with the evil elves in the Santa side of the story where his elves started changing and he had to like fight them. And because they almost felt similar type of creatures.
They could. I mean, elves and changelings are like their own little folklore and mythos with them. Because I mean, that's a real thing in actual like folklore where the changeling, they will come in and they will steal the human child and replace it with the changeling, and they'll steal the baby to almost like they raise it. Either is it like they raise it to help populate again, or they actually take it and eat it as food. But like the changeling baby, like it's raised by the human people, it's taught by the human people, and eventually like it leaves once it's had like its fill.
And I wanted more from the changeling because it went quick from the changeling to killing dad, where I kind of wanted more of kind of a hunt, chase down kind of thing.
I mean, despite the small apartment, yeah, there was still like the tension of going through and, you know, not knowing where it is. And then in the background, like even out of focus, blurry, seeing that little shit crawl along the wall.
Yeah.
Like up on the ceiling. You're like, oh God, he's dead. he's gonna But you're right. Like, I mean, even the fight with dad, like you didn't see it. Mom just comes in and like his hand is gone.
Like he's laying there dead and his hand is just severed from his body. And I'm like, oh, I wanted all this.
Yeah. I never understood why he took the hand, unless the hand was the thing that, because remember, he did raise his hand to smack him. And mom told him, like, don't you dare. So maybe like taking the hand off is like, well, if you don't have that, you can't hit me.
But I'm going to kill you anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Kill you anyways, and then I'm going to play with your hand later.
That one, and probably just Santa's story were the two that I liked. I think it was just because Santa's story was like these demon zombie elves coming at him, and it was just bloody and fun.
I wish there was some type of an established portion of the story where how did, I think it was Shiny, like how did Shiny become infected? Because all we know is that like he's just he's sick.
Yeah, he's not feeling well.
That's all we know is just that he's not feeling well. He's sick. He doesn't want any of Mrs. Claus's cookies.
But I kind of felt like it went like the story, because the other story with the family that goes to Auntie's house and the asshole kid that starts messing with stuff. And they mess with the little Krampus statue, and then they end up stealing it. I felt like because bad things were happening, that's why the elves were not well.
Like, would that affect the elves? Because the naughtiness of the boy just kind of being a little dick.
Well, he was a full-on dick.
Well, yeah. And then the girl, it seemed like such a weird shift for him. Like, he was knowledgeable and he was talking about Krampus, like he was inquisitive and asking questions. And the guy was like, oh, like, you know who Krampus is. And then suddenly the mom is all like, don't touch that. Or he said, you know, be careful with that. And he goes, oops, which is weird because like before that, you didn't have any indication that he was a little shit.
The one guy that's talking to him, does he end up being a changeling or something else?
No, he becomes Krampus.
That's right.
Like, if you are naughty, or if naughtiness is like in your soul, essentially, as the aunt puts it, Krampus can basically envelop you and you become Krampus. Or Krampus has the ability to possess you and can take your body.
Take over and go after the bad people.
Right. So it can go after the bad people, which could actually make sense as to how, much like Santa, Krampus could make it worldwide in a matter of time in order to get all of the naughty people. So Krampus can maybe shift from body to body, or the amount of people whose spirits are enveloped with naughtiness can simultaneously change into Krampus. So Krampus could be
all over. Saying about the boy, how he changed. The girl, where it comes out later that, oh, hey, I did steal something. Like, really? Like, this didn't... You saw some things happen and you decide, I'm going to steal this little thing that she just like pulls out of her pocket as they're rushing through the forest.
Well, okay, so the brother knocked the Krampus figurine off.
Yes.
That was his naughtiness. At the time, she already had pocketed the lighter. It's not going to change whether or not she announces that she stole it later on, because like the deed's already been done. But she brings it up to a point to say like, Krampus can be anywhere. Krampus can be anyone. Krampus is here now.
Krampus is all over. Evil is afoot. We're all screwed. Well, did you notice even in the, well, I guess it does come out later, William Shatner, the dude that he works with, who's all like grumpy. I know it comes later of who it was, because when at first I was like, oh, hey, that's George Buza. Because you don't, they make sure you don't see him.
Sort of, yeah. Like he's...
Did you like that kind of twist on things with him?
I did. I'm not exactly sure. I can't remember, despite the fact how many times I've seen this. Why does he snap?
I think it's just the job, the season, life, everything. So he just snaps.
Something goes awry, and that's when, like, you know, he's like, oh, what's his name?
So all the elves and everything else, actually, he is killing these people because he is He is imagining it.
Oh yeah. Like he thinks he's Santa because that's what he's supposed to go down there for anyways, is for the toy drive or the canned food drive. And he snaps. And I love the fact that like in his imagination, he's in this vast complex in the North Pole, but it's really just like a tiny, like the size of like, you know, a Payless shoes kind of like mall front. I love the creativity for how big they're saying Santa's like North Pole workshop is, but man, that's like a citadel.
It is. And the way they fly it in too.
The way they fly it in, like that's the size of like a huge, like a Mormon church. Like it is big and it is vibrant. It seems far too big for, I guess, like how much we're shown. Although we are shown that Santa will go down multiple levels because he rides the elevator. He takes stairs up. So I get it. But also like, man, if that place is that big, why are we shown only so many elves? Right? We're only shown like what? Like maybe 10 that he...
Well, I mean, because he's the mall Santa and that's all he really sees.
I get that. Well, that's true. It has to go with how many people are actually there.
Yeah.
But again, it's all in his imagination. But yeah, like he snaps.
I did not expect that to happen.
No.
Especially the first time, even the second time, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot that there was this twist that he's like imagining all this. He's gone crazy mad.
So, I mean, unless the elves getting sick and going cannibalistic, zombie-ish, unless that's like a metaphor or something to coincide with his personal feelings of Christmas, like the Christmas time is actually quite toxic and poison for some people.
It is. And you could just, he was pissed off and angry anyways, because, you know, he stormed out of the radio thing and like,
as he put the sign up like F Christmas.
Yeah.
And that's what I think it's one of my favorite lines in the entire movie, where Shatner's like, did you see that? You know who saw that? Jesus saw that.
Yeah.
I think that's like my favorite part.
I don't remember where it was they went, but the character where he's like, it's like Paul Bunyan and Dracula gate up and build a dream home.
That's in the aunt's house.
That's right. That's right.
And it's the wife. I'm pretty sure it's the wife who said that. The only thing that, aside from like the first story, where again, I don't think it's as strong, but the only thing that I think feels off, even though it is on the cover and even though they won an award for like best fight, I don't see how Santa fighting Krampus actually works in the story with Santa, because it has nothing to do with the elves being infected. You know what I mean? That to me doesn't help. And if that is also the case, where how we've already had a story before the end with Krampus and how it infects people and how it like goes. I mean, I understand. I just established like the infection with the elves, but to me, I felt like they should have focused more on the story with the infection or something, but not with Krampus. I don't think the fight with Krampus was necessary for that story in particular, because they've already established Krampus in another story. To me, if like each story is individual, though cohesive with the rest of it, I don't necessarily like Krampus being in the North Pole fighting Santa, despite it's being his imagination.
Well, and Krampus, I guess with the evil, I mean, maybe Krampus infected all the elves, and that's how he's trying to get to Santa.
But then let's see that. Like, you know,
yeah,
like, I don't know, maybe he tainted the sprinkles that Mrs. Claus is making the cookies, or Krampus is like sneaking in the middle of the night and like, you know, whispering like horrible incantations in the elves' ears as they are trying to sleep or take a nap or something. But also, like, you get random knowledge that is trying to establish this world, despite the fact that he's having like a mental breakdown, where Shiny dies, and the elves are like, but Santa, elves can't die, can they? And I'm like, bitch, you're an elf. Why would you not know if you can't die or not? And then he has to go like, no, they cannot.
Unless I kill them.
Right? And I'm like, but if that's not the case, then so elves just can't die of like normal things. But clearly Shiny is not having something normal happen to him.
He's having a bad day. His eggnog that morning really was messing with his tummy.
Mrs. Claus just wouldn't leave it alone. Have a cookie, Shiny. I said, I don't want any cookies, you reindeer humping whore.
You do that pretty well. You do.
Ladies and gentlemen, I was actually shiny in A Christmas Story.
So overall, we watch a lot of anthology films. You and I.
Right.
I mean, you've come on here. We've recorded about multiple. Whenever I want to do an anthology, I'm like, oh, I got to call Drew so we can talk about one. How would you rate A Christmas Horror Story out of, I don't know what you rated out of 5.
So I give it a 3.5 out of 5. I genuinely enjoy it. I think despite the little things that I find problematic with it, it's still enjoyable because you still have a fun cast, you have a cohesive stories, you have great practical effects, you have great costuming, you have great special effects. It's a fun movie. And I think it does its job. I love the fact that it's a Canadian horror story. It is set in the same town as Ginger Snaps.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's the same town. And
okay.
I don't know. Little things like that.
Universe, maybe? No.
Oh,
it would have been pretty awesome if they could have had her like walk by.
Well, it would have been 15 years since that first movie.
Still. She comes strolling by.
But I mean, like how great, like, I mean, if like Shatner would have just saying Bailey Downs and having it in the same town, that is that little like wink and nod because I mean, it is the same director, but like if he could have brought up and say like, you know, it's been 15 years since those horrible like wild wolf attacks and so like just
a comment.
Sure. Just to make a comment. That would have been funny. But yeah, no, little things like that make it fun for me. 3.5 out of 5. It's enjoyable. I watch it every year. And there's even a Joe Bob special that is fun to watch with it.
Yeah, for me, I originally gave it a 2.5, but since then I think it's bumped up to a 3. Like it's enjoyable. It has its flaws. Don't get me wrong. There's definitely that in there, but it is just a fun anthology that's not your typical anthology. It's more of a trick or treat anthology. Things kind of weave together and pieces kind of go with the others. Not a collection of shorts.
Right. There's a cohesiveness to the stories.
All right. Well, anything else you want to say about A Christmas Horror Story? So many things, but so little time.
But you know what? I think it'd be fun if they actually now that we're eventually getting a Trick or Treat 2, maybe the director will take a note from that, and maybe we'll get A Christmas Horror Story 2.
That would be fun.
That'd be really neat. And you know what? Shatner's still around. Who wouldn't want him back as as the radio host? But now maybe he'd be like a podcast host.
They can never get those right in movies, though.
I know they can.
Anyway, that's a whole nother story. If you were to, I want to say, for a holiday double feature, what would you pair with A Christmas Horror Story?
Ooh, what would I pair with A Christmas Horror Story? Let's see. We have an assortment of stories that are violent and yet Christmassy. If we're going to keep a good balance, I think a good fun kind of aspect to it. Let's do Better Watch Out.
Okay. Yeah.
I think that's good because it also has kind of a satisfying ending in a way.
It's been a few years since I've seen that one. I remember enjoying it. Maybe it's time for a revisit.
Yeah.
I have one here. I haven't watched it yet. I need to add it. It's another anthology. It's called Night Terrors. I have the Blu-ray of it, but I haven't watched it yet. So I don't know if that would make a nice double feature with it. But even Krampus, because Krampus is so fun, obviously would go with it.
Yeah, that movie hits right. You know what? If you need a good balance, this can be your spooky. This can be your like scary. Anna and the Apocalypse.
And then you just end it with a fun musical.
As I told our buddy Dave, like there's no such thing as a Hollywood ending.
Well, I think that will do it for possibly the last holiday of horror this season. I don't know. We'll see if Gerald and I can find time to connect the next 24 hours.
2024.
If not, we'll save it for 2025. Drew, I want to thank you for coming to talk anthologies. It's always a blast. It's always a blast just chatting with you. So I know you're going to be back in 2025 for plenty of episodes with me.
You know it.
Everybody out there have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I'll be back, in 2025 with new episodes. I'll be working on my favorite films from this year. Thank you to everybody who listens. Thank you to everybody who has shared out the show, who supports me, just everything from this past year. I am having so much fun doing this show. I appreciate all the positivity I've had in this. The horror community is absolutely amazing. Can't wait to get back to things like Horror Hound and other conventions through the year because the people are fantastic. But I will be back soon with another new episode. Just snuggle up in that blanket, turn off the lights, because it's okay to be scared. We'll talk to you later, everybody.